Hello everyone, it's your favorite night owl here, out on this unfortunately sunny day. I do so apologize for any background noise, as it seems to be a bit of a busy day. Fantastic. Before we get started, like, share, and subscribe. We are not sponsored by any brand names that may or may not be mentioned within this video or seen. Fantastic. We have everything here for today's video, so let's get on with it, shall we? Alrighty then. Hello everyone, we are back with everything generally set up where it needs to be. Today's video is centered around that block right there, little Esbit stove. Alrighty then. Esbit stoves go back to, I believe, 1936. In fact, at the very least, the brand name Esbit does, which it says on the box. This video is about the basics of using said stove. Alrighty then. We have here everything that we need for rather simple recipes a day, as this is about basics, although you can get fairly creative with it. Although generally speaking, depending on how creative, it will result in requiring more than one fuel tablet, which is a key around it. The Esbit stove itself is a form of pocket stove. As we do a little quick discussion here, that, at least according to the box, Esbit goes back to 1936. And it centers around that little pocket stove there, using those solid fuel tablets. I believe the basic science behind those tablets goes back a little bit further than the Esbit stove itself. As a form of pocket stove, it's meant to be relatively easy, fits in a pack rather nicely. Many MREs around the world use Esbit stoves for heating their food. Also, it can be a popular camping item. Fantastic, as it is rather simple to use. Although generally speaking, you want to try to do everything in one go with one tablet, as the tablets price-wise can add up. The tablets we're using today are made by UST. Once again, we are not sponsored by any brand names that may or may not be mentioned or seen within this video. We have here also some Kipper snacks, where essentially a smoked fish. Absolutely fantastic. The few tablets themselves are lit either by matches, or for the convenience of it, if you have it available, a rather large lighter. Moving on, you can also potentially, if necessary, use a bit of kindling, ignite the one end, and then use that to light the fuel tablet, of which a few tablets do heat up very quickly. We have the mess kit out, which we will set on top after reading how to make that nice little old bag of, I believe it says, smoky cheese and bacon mashed potatoes by Idahoan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. We are not sponsored by any names that may or may not, brand names that may or may not be mentioned within this video. Ooh, my pardon. Had a bit of a slip of the tongue there. Alrighty then, after the brief history and the brief instruction, after they open up, Esbit stoves do come in both disposable and reusable varieties, and I have a reusable. Let's get everything together in order to start heating up the basics of it. After we ignite it, we put the pot on, and there we go. Hello everyone, we are back, and we're moving on to the next phase. Now that it's finally been lit, oops, there we go. Let's move those aside. Now, I do have it up on half a concrete block there. Fantastic. As the Esbit stoves do get very hot, so it's not best to keep it on anything particularly flammable. Now, while that's going, if the wind doesn't put it out, as it keeps coming and going, at varying degrees, we have here some Kipper snacks with our smoked fish in, let's read, brine and own juice. Now, what we will be doing is we won't be just taking it out or eating it directly out of the can, is I also brought that plate over there. The reason being is we're going to remove the Kipper snacks, which are by Polar, a product of Germany. Fantastic. Alrighty then, wild caught, BPA free, GMO free, fantastic. All around okay. But it is essentially a smoked fish, which goes really, really well with some nice cheesy mashed potatoes. Alrighty then, so we're going to be moving from these and going to stick them on that plate for the sake of, well, keeping them, well, draining off a little of that bit of that brine. Alright then. We'll be right back once that comes to boil. We are back. Now, the kipper snacks are already in as it came to a boil, and I mixed in the potato packet with the boiling water. Fantastic. And while there's still plenty of residual heat, I put the fish on top and covered with the lid in order to retain a lot of that heat to warm everything nice and through. Now, in my personal experience, Esbit stoves are fully capable of bringing water to boil fairly, and they get hot very quickly. So, exercise a degree of caution. Today's recipe is, well, for the sake of showing the basics of it, well, mostly telling, but, well, anyway, moving on. We have here the pot, and we're going to be serving up on a plate. Well, to be precise, I'm probably going to use that little frying pan off in the far left as my plate, or eat directly out of it, as I'm the only person in my family that eats kipper snacks. I find them to be fairly tasty and good in a variety of recipes. We have additional recipes coming involving kipper snacks. Absolutely fantastic. Now, Esbit stoves do come, as previously stated, in their disposable and reusable. I got a reusable, and it's a reusable intended to use on the larger camping pots, rather than the smaller Honest Outfitters mess kit that I'm currently using. With it, yeah, I was thinking ahead, as I was essentially planning to get one of those pots at some point for group cooking, as sometimes I do end up sharing. However, I generally am not out with others, so thus I saw no reason to go ahead and get that, even after I bought the Esbit. Now, so far, it's been fairly reliable, although there are some downsides to the technology. As, well, you're dependent on those fuel tablets, and the price can add up. So it's best to cook anything you're going to cook in a single go with a single tablet. Unless you want to start burning through, you may end up burning through them anyway, depending on the situation you're in. They fit fairly well into a camping pack, as generally I do have it in my camping and hiking pack. On top of that, I also have one in my emergency storm supplies. They also can be fairly handy in other circumstances as well, such as a temporary power outage. Now, as previously stated, caution, because it does get hot very fast, so do not keep particularly burnable objects in them. Now, we will be plating up and going ahead and having some while we get into discussion, enjoying my nice little old lunch, while we discuss some channel news, although, very least stick around to see how it tastes, although I have a generally good idea, because I like both cheesy mashed potatoes and kipper snacks, so this should be fairly nice for me. Alrighty then, be right back. Alrighty then, I decided to go ahead and just use the main pot, get a close look. I did end up mixing them in a little. That's how I prefer it. You can just stick it on top, or when you plate up, stick it next to it. Alrighty then, we'll be going in for a try. Probably should show that on camera. Want to get a little bite of fish with that smoked fish with the cheesy mashed potatoes. Still very warm. As expected. Fairly tasty. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish smashing up and mixing everything in as we continue talking. Now this video was more of a show than tell. Rather obviously. You want to set this aside for a while. There we go. While we finish on up, you see, oh dear, lost my train of thought there. Moving on. We will be doing additional videos. Holly Shelter is still coming up as hunting season is a-comin'. And, well, that means the gates will be open. Guaranteed. Fantastic. We also have additional parks and other things to check on out. Hiking trails, campsites. We want to be doing all kinds of stuff. Now, as for today, you can do more extensive recipes and prepare multi-part dishes with an Esbit stove, but will mean burning through fuel. So that is relatively up to you. Generally, it's best with Esbit stoves to cook everything in one go. Now, I do have a little bit of a mess to clean on up before heading on in. It is very hot and humid today, more so than I actually was initially expecting. So, moving on, we'll be heading in with my lunch. On top of that, we do have more stuff coming. This was generally filler. And a general into the basics of using an Esbit stove. I do appreciate everyone who stuck around this far. Like, share, and subscribe. And, well, see everyone around.